Hello and welcome to News Central TV. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun. Apologies for the late start. Now the top stories at this hour. Abuja High Court grants activist Omoyele Sowore bail of 10 million naira over cybercrime charges. Nigeria Labour Congress issues warning to state government over minimum wage implementation. And at least 7 killed in renewed fighting in Sudan's Darfur state. We'll have the details of these stories and more coming your way right after this. Let's begin by telling you that former presidential candidate and activist Omoyele Sowore has been granted 10 million naira bail by the Federal High Court in Abuja, along with one surety who had to be a law-abiding citizen and possess property in the Federal Capital Territory. Sowore was ordered by the court on Thursday to deposit his foreign passport with the court register. The activist is charged with 17 counts of cyber crimes. When it was read to him on Wednesday, Sowore entered a not guilty plea to all 17 counts. Now, the Nigeria Labour Congress has issued a strong warning to state governments and other employers threatening decisive action against those who fail to implement the new 70,000 naira minimum wage and corresponding salary adjustments by the end of the first quarter of 2025. Speaking at the National Leadership Retreat of the Senior Staff Association of Nigerian Universities in Abuja on Wednesday, the association's president, Mohammed Ibrahim, who also serves as the National Internal Auditor of the NLC, criticized state governments and institutions delaying or manipulating wage payments. Ibrahim accused some employers of treating the wage increase as an award rather than fully implementing it and warned of serious consequences for non-compliance. Besides the impact of climate crisis in Nigeria's northeast, bad governance remains the biggest factor sustaining insecurity and criminal activities in the region. This is according to the Borno State Governor Babangana Zulum, who spoke to News Central on the sidelines of the 5th Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum in Maiduguri, the state capital. The governor added that poverty, illiteracy, and inequality are also hindering the region's development, but that there has been significant progress and commitment towards restoring peace in the past few years. U.S. President Donald Trump has reversed a proposed spending freeze that threatened to disrupt hundreds of billions of dollars in foreign aid. Shortly after the announcement, Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt said on social media that Trump's executive order to pause federal spending would remain in effect, and that the latest directive only concerns a memo released by the Office of Budget and Management. The decision came as the result of a federal court decision on Tuesday temporarily blocking the funding freeze within hours of when it was supposed to go into effect.
We are delivering here is coming from the U.S. Definitely this will have an impact. But I'm optimistic that probably it's a measure that they have taken the time to settle in, the time to put their feet on the ground. But I'm not seeing U.S. completely withdrawing from humanitarian assistance. Only this morning, I saw a tweet of the new state secretary waiving some part of the decision and saying that when it comes to humanitarian assistance, I think process can continue. But I could not triangulate or verify that information. But I'm hopeful that this is what is going to happen.
You have $910 million to raise this time around for Yobe, Borno, and Adamawa states in 2025. With the withdrawal of the United States from funding these kind of humanitarian aid, where are you going to get the money?
You are absolutely right. 900 million is the amount we appeal for the 2025 humanitarian response plan. But as I say, I'm not sure that it's a withdrawal. It's not presented like that. For me, it's a moratorium, and I think it's a new administration that are settling in. Let's wait and see.
Following a fracas at the National Secretariat of Nigeria's opposition party, the People's Democratic Party, during its 79th Board of Trustees meeting in Abuja, the chairman of the board says that reports that the Secretariat has been taken over by security operatives are false and frivolous. The chairman, Adolphus Wabara, addressed those claims while presenting the resolution of the board regarding the state of the nation and the party. Idong Joseph reports.
The altercation began shortly after the opening ceremony of the 79th Board of Trustee meeting, when an aide to Samuel Anyanwu, a factional national secretary, confronted Sunday Ude Okoye, forcefully ejecting him from the hall over disputes regarding the party's national secretary position. An attempt by Ude Okoye to re-enter the venue of the meeting sparked a confrontation. Despite the chaos, the meeting proceeded, with the BOT chairman intervening to declare that despite the internal crisis, the party has the mechanism in place to address its challenges.
For clarity, we want to mention here that there are no security operatives in Wadata House. We are again one good family. You can see distinguished Senator Anyanwu is here, Ude Okoye is also here, and members are here since 11 o'clock. So if we are to remain here till tomorrow, we will still find these men here.
Wabara, while highlighting the resolutions of the board, criticized the All Progressives Congress for what he described as a deteriorating state of the nation due to their policies.
On the national front, the Board of Trustees expresses concerns over the worsening economic and security situation, social dislocation, and total sense of hopelessness in the country due to the ill-conceived and ill-implemented policies of the All Progressives Congress.
He called for immediate actions to be taken by the administration to halt all its anti-people policies.
The Board of Trustees demands that the APC administration immediately rescinds all its anti-people policies and takes urgent steps to stimulate the productive sector, create jobs, and revamp the ailing economy.
The BOT says that it has established a committee to engage with all aggrieved members in a bid to address the current crisis regarding the National Secretary position. In Abuja for News Central, I am Idong Joseph.
You're watching News Central now. Traffic along the 3rd Mainland Bridge was disrupted on Thursday following a fire outbreak involving a bus rapid transit vehicle. A few persons were spotted with injuries and scars, with another notably undergoing resuscitation. As of now, it's not clear what the situation is with casualties, but officials of the Lagos State Traffic Management Agency were seen on the ground managing the situation. Abia State Governor Alex Otti on Thursday presented 5 armored personnel carriers to the State Police Command. He said the purpose was to adequately equip the police in the states for crime fighting. The governor, during the handover ceremony at the government house in Umuahia, said it is important to refurbish the old carriers that have been abandoned for years instead of procurement of new ones. The Commissioner of Police, Dan Ladi Issa, while taking delivery of the vehicles, assured of increased tempo in the fight against all forms of crimes in the state, using the incentives that the police have been provided with. And staying in Abia State, where the people of the communities that transverse the Onu, Iyang, Okporo, Enyi Road in Abia State, southeast Nigeria, say the reconstruction of the road will resuscitate brotherhood and friendship among the people. They say will also ease transportation of farm produce from their communities to markets of choice in Ikwanu or Bende local government areas of the state. News Central's Chinwe Ugele has more.
A 13-kilometer road connecting 2 local government areas and about 4 communities. The Oniyan Okoreni Road has been in a bad state for over 4 decades. Although it is currently undergoing reconstruction, the people can still recall their plight on this road just a few months ago.
We have been suffering for quite a long time. Over 70 years ago, This road has nothing has done over this road. It has been affecting us because the communication between him and Amon and the calendar, even though it's zero, but it's cut off.
One of these communities before now could only deposit their dead in the mortuary if they bear corpses on their heads to cross over to a motorable place, owing to the deplorable state of the road.
We suffer a lot. If you are coming back, if you remember here, your heart will cut because when you get to the Oniyan Junction, it's Operation Pull Your Shoe.
Abia State government plans to flag off reconstruction of the road on Thursday.
Interestingly, that road project straddles two senatorial zones of Abia North and Abia Central.
The people are hopeful that the present government will complete the work, having started it as promised.
We are not doubting of this road. By the grace of God, by this time next year, this road will be motorable everywhere. Wherever you want to go, you go.
The major impact of the road will be easing the link between the various communities of Iguano and Bende and allowing them to access healthcare services whenever they need to.
It is going to help us in everything, both agricultural, relationship, everything. You know, I'm telling you, for us, the other day I just drove from here to Nkalonta. I feel like I've come back home.
This place is a blessed land. We have so many crash crops like cocoa, timber, okra, rice. So with this road now, they will not be spending much money by carrying from here to market.
This is the Amawom end of the Oniyan Road here in Abia State that is being constructed or reconstructed by the Abia State government. The people are happy that after decades of neglect by various governments that have been in power in the state government is now taking up the project to create accessibility to the communities in Amawom, Iguano local government area of Abia State. For News Central, I am Chinwe Ugeli.
Nigeria's Minister of Agriculture and Food Security, Abubakar Kyari, says Nigeria needs more arable land to overcome food insecurity. Last year, more than 30 million Nigerians experienced acute food shortage as the country battled extreme flooding and climate crisis. Senator Kyari spoke to News Central's senior international correspondent, Adeshawa Josh, on the sidelines of the ongoing 5th Lake Chad Basin Governors Forum in Maiduguri, Borno State.
Fertilization, seeds, all these are challenges. So you may have the land, but that's not what food is. Food is good seeds, good preparation, good fertilization, adequate water.
But what must we do to make it fertile enough for us to get seed?
First and foremost, we need to develop the land.
How?
Mechanization.
Currently food insecure according to the FAO. What must we do to reduce that number?
Go to the market. Don't you have food? It's
have
available. Issue is affordability, yes.
But why so, sir?
Because of production levels.
What must we do to fix it then, in the meantime?
Produce more.
But how do you say we should produce more when it is evident that there is problem with production?
Yeah. Sorry. Oh, okay. We'll talk, get her, so we'll continue, yeah?
Thank you, sir.
Yeah?
Nigeria's Minister of Interior says that over 3.2 billion naira was generated in 2024 through receipts collated from the expatriate quota payments. The minister, during a maiden media parley with journalists in Abuja, says that several reforms have been initiated with an aim at repositioning the nation's correctional services, immigration and civil defense corps, and improving on their service delivery to citizens. Amadine Uyi has the full details.
It was the first media parley of the year. The permanent secretary of the ministry highlighted the agenda for the meeting.
We want to put what we've been able to achieve in 2024 before you and also what we intend to do in 2025. The challenges we face are significant, but we also have opportunities.
The Minister of Interior gave details of the deliverables for the ministry, which supervises several internal security and paramilitary agencies.
The core responsibility of the Ministry of Interior is, of course, citizenship integrity, as well internal security, and as well as supervision of key agencies under the purview of the ministry.
While giving a lengthy scorecard of the achievements of the ministry in the last 1 year, he says that tremendous revenue was generated through expatriate quota payments and marriage registry receipts.
In expatriate quota last year, the government was able to realize about 3.2 billion naira from expatriate quota alone. And of course, this is not about just giving quota to people, it's about application fees. Last year, the department was able to generate about 6,034,457,000 naira. That is over 50%, increase.
The minister says that reforms to reposition the nation's correctional service, immigration, and civil defense corps has been put in place to improve their efficiency and performance. In Abuja for News Central, I am Amadine Uyi.
Now we have an update on one of our top stories of this hour. Correspondent Joshua Imaraye, who has been covering the proceedings in the case of Omoyele Sowore, has the latest for us now. Joshua, good afternoon to you.
Loud and clear, Tolu. Good afternoon from the Federal Capital Territory to you.
Thank you so much for joining me. So we know just a few days ago that Omoyele Sowore had rejected the bail conditions that were set initially for him at that point, refusing to accept the stringent bail conditions. And he said that he would keep himself, he would let himself be kept in police custody until further notice. But now we're hearing that it seems those bail conditions have been changed. Joshua, what's the latest?
Sowore actually refused the bail condition, the administrative bail condition offered to him by the police that necessitated the presentation of a level 17 civil servant, particularly who is appointed as a result of political decision. That's the position of the permanent secretary. But here in the court today, Sowore got lucky, and the court actually changed the requirement for bail, and the condition have been revised by the Honorable Justice Suleiman Musa Liman, who sat at the Federal High Court today. Sowore was offered a bail condition of 10 million naira with a shorty in like sum, who has a property in the Federal Capital Territory and is a responsible citizen. That means that the person who is willing to stand as surety for Sowore must be someone who is free from all character deficit and has not been convicted by the court. However, the court has granted Sowore a 24-hour extension, particularly to be free to perfect his bail condition, meaning he has the freedom of 24 hours to move freely, see as many people as he can see, pending when his bail application is being perfected.
Okay, so in regards to that, so we have a change in the bail application, or the bail conditions rather, for Omoyele Sowore. As we look at this case further, he has pleaded not guilty to all 17 counts of the charges against him. Is there any updates in regards to that?
Well, the 16-count charge that was read to him yesterday, Sowore pleaded not guilty to every of the counts that was read to him when the judge himself was sitting from his confines. He himself actually commented that these charges were generic charges based on the fact that a timeline of Sowore's activity or Sowore's activity on his social media, where he has spoken directly to the IG, the Inspector General of Police, who he claimed is an illegal IG. So a couple of charges were laid against him, and those charges contained specifically cases and times where he made some assertion to the person of the Inspector General of Police, and in which the judge termed as a generic counts being read out at the court yesterday.
All right, so aside from that, that's the hearing for today. Is there any new information that you can share with us at this time, Joshua?
Well, Sowore was mandated to deposit his travel document, that is his international passport, which did not really go down well with him, because based on what he said this is just an attempt to limit his freedom of movement, considering the fact that he is, based on what he said, an international citizen, and for a fact that his family is not in Nigeria, that he's required to visit them time to time, that the police has always, based on what Sowore said, the police has always targeted his international passport, and this is just another case of them wanting to keep the passport to themselves and limit his movement to confines of Abuja. Well, he, for a fact, is willing to deposit the document, but he's saying that this case is far to be won by the police.
All right, Joshua, just one more question before I let you go. So today was bail conditions, and he has 24 hours, as you said, according to the judge, to find a way to run around and see who can help him. Beyond that, when do we know the next hearing of this case is? What are the next steps that we anticipate coming? Are we going to see him back in court any other time this week? What do we know?
Well, based on what the judge said in his wisdom, he gave the date of April 8th to commence to reconvene and adjourn. He adjourned the case until the 8th of April, where the case is going to begin on a full scale. And Sowore is optimistic that is going to be victorious against the IG. However, we have not heard from the IG or anybody representing the IG. The IG has not spoken on the issue. The police PRO has not spoken on the issue. But a few moments back, some policemen were here to confirm for a fact, because they saw Sowore roaming freely outside the courtroom and outside the court premises. So they were here to confirm if he was given a 24-hour freedom ultimatum to move freely before his bail conditions are perfected.
All right, Joshua, thank you so much. I know you've been following this case from the very beginning. We will have more updates from you as time goes on. The news continues now in West Africa, where despite an approval for a formal withdrawal of the 3 former ECOWAS member states of Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso from the regional body, citizens in possession of the ECOWAS passports will not be having their passports withdrawn. This was made known by the president of the ECOWAS Commission in Abuja, where he said that the citizens will continue to enjoy several privileges initially enjoyed by reason of being members of ECOWAS. Some of these include the free movement of persons within member states, free trade within member states, as well as several others.
In the meantime, a number of questions have been raised, and we thought we should address them by or with a press statement or with this press conference. The first relate to the passports and identification cards that citizens of the 3 countries hold, and that bear the logo of ECOWAS. And ECOWAS is informing the general public that national passports and identity cards bearing ECOWAS logo and which are being held by citizens of the 3 countries, Burkina Faso, Republic of Mali, and the Republic of Niger, will remain recognized by ECOWAS member states until further notice.
No fewer than 7 people have been killed following fierce fighting between the Sudanese army and its allies against the Rapid Support Forces, RSF, in El Fasher, the capital of North Darfur State. The city has been plagued by deadly fighting between the warring factions since May, leading to the displacement of most of its residents. Dozens of civilians have been killed, and infrastructure, including healthcare facilities and water sources, has been devastated. Spokesperson for the joint forces in El Fasher, Ahmed Hussein Mustafa, said in a statement that the RSF had targeted civilian gatherings in the city with heavy artillery shelling the Abu Shuk camp for displaced people, which led to the death of 7 people and injured more than 12. First responders are still in a desperate search for survivors after a military helicopter collided with a plane near Reagan Washington National Airport in Virginia on Wednesday night. No fewer than 30 bodies have so far been recovered from the Potomac River. The American Airlines flight traveling from Wichita, Kansas, collided with a military chopper while approaching runway 33 at the D.C. airport around 9 p.m. The American Airlines regional passenger jet, was carrying 64 people when it collided with a helicopter and crashed into the frigid Potomac River near Reagan Washington National Airport. Several members of the figure skating community were aboard the jet. Separately, Russia's state news agency said 2 world champion Russian figure skaters were also on the plane.
Despite all those efforts, we are now at a point where we are switching from a rescue operation to a recovery operation. At this point, we don't believe there are any survivors from this accident, and we have recovered 27.
For more on this, I'm joined by our international correspondent, Afia Hagen. Afia, it's good to see you, but unfortunately, we are seeing in some sad circumstances. Can you give us the latest on the helicopter and the plane crash that occurred over Washington, D.C. in the early hours, or the late hours, rather, of Wednesday?
Yeah, a really tragic story, Tolu, and we're now hearing that there is thought to be no known survivors of that crash between the American Airlines flight, a Bombardier plane built for American Airlines, and that helicopter. Now, the latest update we've been given is that 27 bodies have been pulled from the American Airlines passenger jet and 1 body pulled from the helicopter. So far, 64 people on board. Now, the airport remains closed at the moment. It's thought to open around 11 a.m. Local time. That's Reagan National Airport. And this flight was coming in from Kansas. It was coming in to Washington, D.C. And we're also being told that both the plane and the helicopter were on what's being described as their usual flight path. Now, American Airlines seem to be placing the blame with the helicopter, saying that they were on their usual flight path. There's some recordings from the helicopter pilot's side where he's being warned about the plane. He says that he sees it, and then 19 seconds later, there's no more communication from him, and that's when the crash occurred. Now, you talked about US figure skating there. There had been a really big figure skating competition that had taken place in Wichita in Kansas. So lots of different teams from across the country had gathered there for figure skating, and that's why it's thought that some of those competitors unfortunately were on board that flight. But we're awaiting more information from both officials in Kansas and Washington, D.C. as to exactly who was on the plane, who was on that manifest.
So you've given us a bit of information in terms of how the crash may have happened, and already speculation is rife online about the flight paths for both of the aircraft, one being a military helicopter, another a regional passenger jet. In terms of the response from first responders, this happened in the middle of the night. It's very cold right now in this particular region of the United States, and the Potomac River is said to be frigid, and in some places actually frozen over. Do we have any idea in terms of how long it took response teams to get on scene of this accident?
Well, yes, we have a little bit of kind of like a timeline, if you will. So the incident occurred around 8:48 local time. At 8:47, you have the CCTV of the white flash as the plane collides with the Black Hawk helicopter. Then the alarm is sounded a minute later, and DC police arrive on the scene at 8:53 local time. They start receiving calls. So the first response unit was on the scene at 8:58 and finds the aircraft in the water. And at 9:04 p.m., the first search and rescue boat leaves Capitol Cove Marina, and the second search and rescue boat, leaves also a few minutes after and arrives arrives at the scene at 9:11 p.m. So it was actually between 8:47 p.m. and 9:11 p.m. That's what, 20 minutes between the crash occurring and first responders arriving on the scene. Now, a passenger boat joined in the search about midnight, and the first press conference was held just before 1 a.m. And that's when we really started getting more news as to what had happened during that particular incident.
So, Afia, let me take us back to the figure skating community as it is right now. We heard reports that Russian ice skating coaches Shishkova and Namov were among scores who are now feared dead after the mid-air collision between the airliner and the military helicopter. Now, Russian news outlets have released a list of 13 skaters, many of them who were actually children of Russian immigrants to the U.S., also believed to have been aboard the plane. What do we know of what is being said on the Russian side of this tragedy?
Well, at the moment, we don't know enough about all those people that were on the plane. The manifest has not been released. Now, officials in Kansas are asking people if they want to come to the airport, they can, but to stay at home for more information. And officials in Kansas, they gave a press conference sort of 30 minutes ago, and it was all about the logistics of what had happened rather than digging into the family. So from the Russian side and from the side in Kansas, we don't know enough about who was on the plane. No names have been released from the manifest as yet. So officials really want to wait until the families are informed, until the families have been told if their loved ones are on that plane before they start releasing the list and more of the names of the people on that plane. So far, it's a lot of things being said on social media, but nothing official from official channels telling us categorically who was on that plane.
Afia, thank you so much for the updates. I know that as we get updates from the U.S. and any potential statements from Russia, you'll be joining us again on the news for the latest. Thank you so much at this time. All right, you're watching the news now. We do have a few more bits and pieces to get through for you, but we'll do that right after the break. Stay with us. Olayemi Cardoso, the governor of the Central Bank of Nigeria, announced on Wednesday that the federal government has settled the $7 billion foreign exchange backlog owed to various firms following a successful verification by forensic auditors. This announcement was made during the launch of Nigeria's regulatory policy framework organized by the Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council at the State House in Abuja. Cardoso expressed optimism that clearing the backlog would alleviate issues related to fund repatriation for businesses and foreign investors. He acknowledged that the process took longer than expected due to prior irregular practices. Additionally, Zara Aldu, the Director General of the PEBEC, emphasized the importance of a stable policy environment and stakeholder engagement in shaping future policies. Match day 3 of the 2024-25 Nigeria Women Football League Premiership delivered thrilling encounters as top teams dropped points, underdogs impressed, and debutantes struggled. Edo Queens and Remo Stars Ladies played out a dramatic 1-1 draw in Benin City, ending both teams' perfect starts, but keeping them unbeaten at the top of Group A. Rivers Angels dominated FC Robo Queens 4-2, while Adamowa Queens secured their first win with Omo Afesimi netting a hat trick against Delta Queens. Bayelsa Queens crushed debutantes Benue Queens 5-1, while Nasarawa Amazons edged Confluence Queens 1-0. Ekiti Queens and Naija Ratals also recorded vital wins, while Heartline Queens and Abia Angels settled for a goalless draw in the Oriental Derby. And that's all the news we have for you at this time. But before we go, let's take another look at some of the major stories. Abuja High Court has granted activist Omoyele Sowore bail of 10 million naira over cybercrime charges. Nigeria Labour Congress has issued warnings to state governments over minimum wage implementation. And we also told you that at least 7 persons have been killed in renewed fighting in Sudan's Darfur state. You can watch News Central live on DSTV channel 422, Star Times channel 274, Avo TV, and YouTube. Many thanks for watching. I'm Tolulokwe Adileru Balogun. I'll see you again soon.